This video is a summary of Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. The book was written 75 years ago, yet its lessons remain shockingly relevant today. In fact, the whole reason we created this channel was because of one of the concepts introduced in this book. So if you want to learn how to get everything you want out of life, then make sure to watch this video until the end. Let's jump right into it. Have you ever wondered why, despite intelligence, despite talent, despite good intentions, despite all the knowledge you have acquired, why most people never reach the life they truly desire? Why do some people read books like this one and others get to live lives that they would love to see on paper? The answer is simple, but it is also unsettling. Because there is a hidden force that governs their minds. A force that cannot be seen with the eyes, but is felt and lived every single day. Napoleon Hill called it the devil. And let us be clear, this devil is not the horned creature from folklore, breathing fire and wielding a pitchfork. No, the devil is a mental and spiritual state. It is a consciousness of fear, confusion, addiction, and passivity. It robs you of your will. It dulls your vision, and it chains you to an existence that feels alive on the surface but is dead within. This state of being is what Hill calls the dominant idea. It is the single thought that dictates your behavior, your actions, your life. You can think of it as your higher self, your inner voice, or simply put, your mind. What if I told you that the key to escaping the devil's grip lies in understanding and controlling this dominant idea? That by mastering our thoughts, we can rewrite our destinies and create the life we truly crave. But how exactly do we achieve this feat? By becoming aware of the subtle ways in which the devil tries to trick us. The first of these tricks is what Hill called drift. Drift is the silent surrender of the mind. It is when a man moves through life without direction, without purpose, without control over his own thoughts. He becomes a creature of habit, living by impulse, reacting to whatever comes his way. For example, let's say you've always wanted to start a business. You read books, you attend seminars, you even make plans. But when the time comes to take action, you find yourself frozen in fear and indecision. You keep putting it off for another day, another month, another year. And before you know it, years have gone by and your dream has turned into a distant memory. Now, this is not because you lack intelligence, skills, or resources. You are just drifting through life, letting circumstances dictate your actions instead of taking charge of them yourself. When a man drifts, he stops thinking altogether. Instead, he relies on what Hill calls the sixth sense, the instinct that tells him where he should go, what he should do, who he should be. Unfortunately, this instinct is almost always wrong. It is the voice of habit, of conformity, of fear. It is the devil whispering in your ear, telling you to play it safe, to stay in your comfort zone, to never take risks. Now, don't misunderstand it. Drift is not the same as laziness. In fact, the drifter is often very active, sometimes dangerously so. He goes to work, he hangs out with friends, he watches TV, he uses social media, he does whatever everyone else does. But all this activity leads him nowhere. He is like a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the winds of chance. He has no destination in mind, no course to follow, no anchor to hold him steady. In fact, drift is more dangerous than laziness because it hides behind the mask of normal life. People see you working hard. They think you have your life together. But only you know what's going on inside. You know that you are not really in control. You know that you are not pursuing your own goals, but those of others. You know that you are not living on your own terms, but on the terms of your environment. To escape this trap, Napoleon Hill suggests that we must awaken our dominant idea, must become aware of our thoughts and question them. Are they leading us to where we want to go, or are they keeping us stuck in the same place? To awaken our dominant idea, we must first realize that we have one. We must stop being mindless zombies and start being conscious creators. We must take responsibility for our thoughts and actions, and the consequences that follow. Think about it. If you were to ask most people if they are happy with their lives, most would say yes. They would say they are content with their job. their relationship, their finances, their future. But if you were to ask them why they are happy, they would struggle to come up with an answer. They wouldn't be able to explain what makes them satisfied or fulfilled because they have never examined their own minds or hearts. They have never asked themselves what they really want or why they want it. They have just drifted along with the current, following whatever seemed right at the time. When you drift, you lose your sense of purpose and direction. You forget what you truly desire and how to pursue it. You become a slave to your habits and impulses. You become a product of your environment rather than a master of it. You become a victim of the devil's trickery rather than a conqueror of it. So how do you free yourself from this trickery? How do you overcome the dangers of drift? Hill gives us 4 tips to help us do so. First, we must define our dominant idea. We must clarify what we really want and why we want it. We must write it down on paper and memorize it. This is our guiding star, our north, our true self. Second, we must cut off all sources of negative energy. We must avoid people, places, and things that do not align with our purpose. We must say no to distractions and temptations. We must focus on our goal with unwavering determination. Third, we must visualize our success. We must see ourselves achieving our desired outcome. We must feel the emotions of happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment. We must use this positive energy to fuel our actions. Fourth, we must take massive action. We must do something every single day to move us closer to our goal. We must not wait for the perfect timing or conditions. We must create our own timing and conditions. We must trust the process and have faith in ourselves. By following these tips, we can overcome the devil's trick of drift and start steering our lives in the direction we want to go. We can become masters of our own destiny rather than slaves of our habits and impulses. We can become victors of our own fears and doubts rather than victims of them. We can become conscious creators rather than unconscious reactors. We can become the authors of our own stories rather than characters in someone else's story. And remember, this is not a one-time victory. It is a lifelong journey. The devil never stops tempting us with new tricks and challenges. But as long as we stay true to ourselves, as long as we keep our dominant ideas strong and clear, we will never lose our way. We will never give up. We will never look back. Now, drift alone is powerful. But the devil has more weapons at his disposal, tools designed to condition, confuse, and control the human mind. For drift and distraction are 2 different things. To drift is to be carried away by circumstance or current. To be distracted is to be drawn away by design. We've already established that most people are living distracted lives, asleep to the grand chessboard where every move is calculated, where billions of pieces are dancing according to a script written long ago. The few who do wake up find themselves at odds with everything they see and hear. So they struggle to keep their heads above water in a world of lies and deception. But what if there was something more, a subtle force that keeps people from waking up in the first place? And what if this force wasn't some abstract concept, but rather a collection of weapons forged in the fires of chaos and wielded by the master puppeteers of this world? Weapons so effective that they render their victims powerless without so much as a whimper of resistance. In today's episode, we're going to discuss 6 such tools, 6 weapons the devil uses to keep humanity shackled. You might recognize some of these tools. Others might come as a surprise. But all of them are nothing less than psychological chains designed to hold back the tide of human potential. The first and greatest is fear. Fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of what others may think. If you can instill fear into a person, you have absolute power over them. Why? Simple. Because fear paralyzes. It prevents action. It makes a person smaller. Think about it. The man who lives in fear is a man who doesn't live at all. He exists, but he does not live. He is like a bird with clipped wings trying to soar. Fear comes in many forms, each tailored to break down its victim in a different way. There's the fear of losing what you have, which leads to attachment. Then there's the fear of not having enough, which leads to greed. The fear of being alone, which leads to codependency. And the fear of death, which leads to hedonism. These fears, and many more, serve as footholds for the devil to enter a person's life. Once fear takes root, the devil no longer needs to intervene. The man begins to sabotage himself. He hesitates instead of deciding, shrinks instead of growing, retreats before he even begins. When you understand this, you begin to see how fear is the ultimate weapon. A weapon so simple, so primal that it can reduce the most complex of men to trembling masses. And unfortunately, the modern world is built to exploit this weakness. Everything from the news to social media to politics thrives on fear. It is no coincidence that the loudest voices in society today belong to those who prey on people's fears. They distract you with one fear while exploiting another. They stoke nationalism while waging wars abroad. They defend religious fundamentalism while stripping secular freedoms away. They claim to protect the environment while destroying it. And they promise safety while keeping you under surveillance. In every instance, they limit your freedom and ensure that you remain a compliant, fearful subject. Moving on, the second weapon is habit. How many times have you caught yourself doing something without thought, without intention, without awareness? How many times have you found yourself eating until you're full, consuming until you're numb, speaking without thinking? Every time you do this, you are handing over your power to the unseen forces that govern your habits. You see, the human brain is an incredible organ, capable of processing an astonishing amount of information. But it's also lazy. It thrives on routine. It loves to conserve energy. That's why habits are so powerful. They allow the brain to function efficiently by automating actions. But while this can be beneficial, it can also be detrimental. When you let your habits be governed by external forces, you become a puppet of the system. You eat fast food because it's convenient. You watch mindless TV because it's entertaining. You stay in a toxic relationship because it's familiar. In each of these situations, you are sacrificing your well-being for the sake of ease. And over time, these sacrifices compound. They become part of your identity. They define your character. Before you know it, you are trapped in a cage of your own making. And who benefits from this? The architects of the modern world, of course. They profit from your distracted, mindless consumption. They make sure that the news is always alarming, that the food is always processed, that the entertainment is always vapid. Their goal is to keep you in a constant state of distraction, to make it difficult for you to break free from the cycle of mindless consumption. The third tool is schooling. Education, at its best, is a liberating experience. It expands the mind. It opens up new possibilities. It equips you with the tools to navigate the complexities of life. But education, at its worst, is a corrupting force. It standardizes thought. It rewards obedience. It produces compliant workers, not critical thinkers. Think about it. What is the primary purpose of most schools? To produce workers who follow orders, not those who question authority. Consider the countless hours spent teaching children to conform, to fall in line, to do as they are told. Now, compare that to the amount of time devoted to cultivating creativity, independence and originality. Which do you think is more important to those in power? Most educational systems are designed not to liberate thought, but to standardize it. They reward obedience, not creativity. A child with curiosity is called disruptive. A student who questions the system is labeled a problem. From the very beginning, men and women are trained to trade individuality for approval. They learn to speak in the language of the system, to think in predefined categories, behave in predictable patterns. Before they even realize it, they are products of the very system that claims to educate them. The fourth tool is religion when it is twisted. Religion, in its purest form, is a search for truth. It's a longing for connection with something greater than oneself. It's a desire for meaning and purpose. But religion, when corrupted, becomes a tool of oppression. It twists the search for truth into blind faith, the longing for connection into submission to authority, and the desire for meaning into rigid dogma. Faith, at its essence, is a path to truth. But when faith becomes fear-based dogma, when it is used to guilt, to shame, to suppress independent thought, it becomes a tool of the devil. When people are taught that suffering is holiness and thinking is rebellion, then the devil walks freely through sacred halls. The fifth weapon is media. Now, information, at its core, is neutral. It's simply data waiting to be interpreted. But information, when weaponized, becomes propaganda. It distorts reality, shaping people's perception of the world. Think about the endless noise coming from various media sources. It bombards you from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. The news, social media, television, the radio, they all contribute to a cacophony of sound that drowns out any semblance of silence. This constant barrage isn't mere chatter. It's carefully designed to manipulate your emotions, to influence your opinions, and to control your actions. Why? Because a distracted mind is a drifting mind. A person addicted to stimulation cannot hear the still small voice of their own conscience. The agenda is simple. Keep you distracted, keep you divided, and keep you under control. And finally, the devil uses comfort. This may surprise you. But the devil loves to make people comfortable. He loves to pamper them, to indulge them, to lull them into a false sense of security. Why? Because comfort becomes dependence. When a person is addicted to comfort, he avoids growth. He resists discipline. He confuses ambition with arrogance, progress with decadence. He exchanges destiny for dopamine. Have you noticed how the modern world caters to comfort? How it glorifies laziness, instant gratification, and complacency. Comfort has become the default setting for a generation. And what does the devil do? He exacerbates this trend. He encourages people to seek comfort over truth, pleasure over purpose, indulgence over industry. He seduces them with a life of ease, all in the name of happiness. But there's a tragic irony here. The very things that promise happiness end up producing misery. Instant gratification leads to perpetual insufficiency. Pleasure without purpose leads to emptiness. Indulgence without discipline leads to ruin. The devil's final trick is to make sin seem appealing, his temptations seem irresistible, and his chains feel like comforts. And that is how the devil operates, through fear, through habit, through corrupted schooling, distorted religion, manipulative media, and the seductive pull of comfort. He tightens his grip over the masses. But there is hope. By understanding these weapons, by recognizing the subtle ways in which the devil operates, you can begin to resist. You can start to see through the illusions, to recognize the traps, and to break free from the chains that bind you. The choice, as always, is yours. Will you continue to drift along the currents of life, or will you take control of your destiny and shape your own future? And yet there is a way out. There is a clear path to freedom for the man or woman who dares to seize their mind back from the grip of drift. If you have been watching these videos for some time, you know we have discussed the idea of drift before. Drifting is the tendency of the human mind to wander aimlessly, to escape into distractions, to avoid facing reality, to embrace comfort instead of growth. Now, it is important to note that drift is not always obvious. It can be subtle, creeping in like a fog that obscures your vision, draining your energy, wasting your potential. You may not realize that you are drifting until you look back and wonder how you got here, why you find yourself unfulfilled, anxious, stuck. So what do you do if you feel yourself drifting? How do you break free from the shackles of your own mind? Well, today I want to discuss the 6 steps that will pull you out of the abyss of drift and plant you firmly on the ground of reality, purpose, and freedom. These are the practical, actionable ways to start today and begin seeing immediate results. Now let's dive right into the first step, definiteness of purpose. The first step to escaping drift is crystallizing your purpose. Drifting is a symptom of uncertainty, a lack of clarity about your goals and aspiration. When you don't know where you're going, you end up going nowhere. But the moment you have a clear, burning goal, a definite major purpose, You become untouchable. You wake with direction. You move with fire. You measure choices against your mission. This purpose doesn't have to be grandiose. It could be something simple like reading more books, waking up earlier, or spending more quality time with loved ones. The key is that it must be definite, something you can clearly articulate and visualize. Think of it as your guiding star, the North Star that doesn't move no matter how cloudy the night sky becomes. When you've pinpointed your purpose, you naturally repel drift because everything you do, every decision you make, every minute you spend can now be measured against that purpose. And this brings me to the next point. Step 2. Self-discipline. Ideas without discipline dissolve into regret. Self-discipline is the bridge between thought and reality. It's the force that transforms ideas into action, dreams into accomplishments. The disciplined person acts when others hesitate, builds when others waste time, and moves forward even when he does not feel ready. Every disciplined act is an act of spiritual warfare against drift. For drift thrives on instant gratification, on the feeling of I'll do it tomorrow or it's too hard right now. But the disciplined life rejects this. It chooses delayed gratification, choosing instead to plant seeds that will bear fruit in the future. The beautiful thing about self-discipline is that once you've mastered it in one area, you can apply it to all others. It's a transferable skill that ripples into every aspect of your life. So start small. Commit to a daily routine, a regular exercise schedule, or reading a set number of pages each day. As you become comfortable with this level of discipline, gradually increase the intensity and scope. Remember, discipline is not about being perfect. It's about showing up even when you don't feel like it, learning from setbacks, and continually refining your approach. Step 3. Faith and belief. Now, this might seem a bit abstract, but trust me, it's crucial. You see, drift often takes root when you start believing negative thoughts about yourself and your abilities. I'm not good enough. I keep messing up. It's too late for me. These beliefs drain your motivation, paralyze your actions, and make it easy to fall into the trap of drift. But what if instead of dwelling on these limiting beliefs, you chose to believe in your potential, in your ability to overcome challenges, and in the goodness of life itself? What if you started seeing obstacles not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones on your journey? This shift in perspective is what we're aiming for. It's a conscious choice to move away from fear and doubt and towards faith and hope. Now, this isn't blind faith. It's a belief in yourself, in your journey, and in the reality of your dreams. It's a belief that you were created with intention, that you possess creative power, and that fear is nothing more than an illusion. This belief must be reinforced daily through autosuggestion, the repetition of affirmations that condition your subconscious. I am the master of my mind. I decide. I do not drift. I lead. These are not empty words. They are weapons that rebuild the architecture of freedom. They are declarations that counter negative beliefs and pave the way for positive change. Step 4. Environment. No one escapes alone. Your environment, both physical and digital, plays a monumental role in shaping your thoughts, actions, and ultimately your destiny. Your environment is a silent teacher, constantly molding you, often in ways you're not even aware of. Think about it. If you surround yourself with drifters, you will drift. If you spend your days scrolling through social media feeds filled with negativity and comparison, you will inevitably internalize that negativity. But the same holds true in reverse. If you immerse yourself in a sea of positivity, of uplifting content and constructive conversations, you will rise. To take control of your environment, you must be ruthless. Remove toxic influences, be it a friend who pulls you down or a TV show that wastes your time. Replace these with things that lift you higher, books that inspire, documentaries that educate, podcasts that motivate. Fill your physical space with things that spark joy, learning, creativity, or productivity. Let your environment become a constant reminder of your purpose, a silent cheerleader pushing you forward. Step 5. Service. Ego fuels drift. It's the belief that your needs are paramount, that your desires should be fulfilled above all else. But what if instead of focusing on yourself, you shifted your attention outward, towards others? What if you started thinking about how you can serve, how you can contribute, how you can make a positive impact on the world? This might sound like a detour from your personal goals, but it's actually the fastest route to your true purpose. You see, the devil cannot control the man whose mission is bigger than himself. When your ambition is rooted in service, in uplifting others, in speaking truth and building something eternal, your power multiplies beyond measure. Such a man cannot be bought, cannot be distracted, cannot be owned. Service is the antidote to drift because it pulls you out of your own head and grounds you in reality. It connects you to something bigger than yourself, giving your life meaning and purpose. Step 6. Gratitude. Gratitude is the often overlooked hero of our story. In a world where it is easy to focus on what we don't have or the challenges we face, gratitude serves as a powerful reminder of the abundance that already exists in our lives. Practicing gratitude rewires your brain, shifting your focus from lack to abundance, from fear to appreciation. It is a daily practice that can be as simple as listing 3 things you are grateful for each morning. These could be simple pleasures like a warm bed or a good book, or significant blessings like health, friendship, or opportunity. Over time, this practice rewires your brain, making you less susceptible to the tricks of drift. Gratitude kills fear because fear thrives on scarcity and uncertainty. It silences envy, which often stems from a sense of lack. And it grounds the spirit in the reality of abundance. By anchoring your mind in gratitude, you're building a strong defense against the subtle temptations of drift. Remember, freedom is not an event. It is a practice. Every day you choose purpose over drift, discipline over weakness, faith over fear, gratitude over doubt, you are winning. You are free. You are awake. The devil's power is not absolute. It is borrowed from your indecision, your passivity, your surrender. But the moment you reclaim your will, the moment you seize your mind with intensity, the devil trembles. Because the truth is this, the mind is either directed or dominated. You either use it, or it will be used. There is no middle ground. Keep this truth in your heart, and live by it. And you will never truly drift again. You'll navigate life's complexities with a clear purpose, knowing that you hold the reins of your destiny in your hands.